contrasting similar subjects. Adrian, John, it's not too much trouble. All right, we're looking at Tuesday's exit ticket, which was this, correct? Briefly compare and contrast how the authors of Leonidas and Thermopylae present information about Leonidas' beheading. Be sure to include evidence about content, structure, and language from both texts to support your ideas. Y'all are all stars at breaking down prompts and giving me those little checklists. Raise your hand if you put a checklist on an exit ticket within the last month that you have done. Little checklist to make sure I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. Yes, Lamana, Isla. I've seen it on more of y'all's papers than that. Okay. That's the importance of doing it, so we make sure that we have everything we need. So if I'm breaking down this prompt, what is the first thing I need to do? What is the first thing I need? I'm going to be comparing and contrasting, gives me the two texts. Information about what? This tells me what the shared topic is, Alana. Leonidas' beheading. So I know I'm focusing on this thing for both these texts. Be sure to include evidence. I need to talk about three things when I'm comparing and contrasting. I need to talk about the content, I need to talk about the structure, and I need to talk about the language. Let's go through and take a look at how we should do that. In the text, y'all. We don't have the text from the other day, but I will be that for you. So anytime we're doing this, y'all, as Fruitman tells you, and as you guys are about to get that reminder, we have our two texts. One was called Thermopylae, one was called Leonidas. We have the shared topic, which we all know, and just gave it to us, was what? The beheading. Him having his head taken from his body. Beheading. So if I'm reading through the section of beheading in Thermopylae, I'm reading through, first I'm going to do it for content, what it's actually saying. So I'm reading through, okay. You guys remember, Xerxes ordered Leonidas' head be taken off his body and put on a stake on the battlefield. That's what that said. So, okay. Xerxes orders it. His head is put on stake and displayed. I know these things come from Thermopylae. Now I'm going to read Leonidas where it talks about his beheading. When you read Leonidas talking about his beheading, it says right there, it says that his warriors found his body with his head missing. And this is interesting. This text tells me that Xerxes did it as a grave insult to the Greeks. It was meant as a grave insult. And I know that grave means really bad. I know that grave means a really bad insult. So I'm going to look back at this. I have talked about the content and how that's different. So I get different information from each text, even though it's talking about the same thing. It's talking about the beheading. Thermopylae tells me Xerxes ordered it and what happened to his head. Leonidas tells me that his warriors found his body and that it was meant as an insult specifically. Obviously, if you cut someone's head off, it's very insulting. Now I need to talk about how the structure is different. So I'm looking at the structure. First of all, I need to look for first versus third person. I'm going to take a look at Thermopylae, and when I read Thermopylae, I'm seeing a lot of he, him, them. So, Nyla?
Third person.
That's third person. Very good. Because I'm seeing he, him, and them, not I or me, it's third person. Now I'm going to take a look at Leonidas. Leonidas. I'm seeing a lot of he, him, and them. So Leonidas is also third person. And y'all, as I'm going step by step, I'm checking back in on the prompt and making sure that I'm giving the prompt everything it's asking for. I have content. I have a little structure. Now I'm going to finish the structure. So how is the information in the text presented to me? Is it in a sequence? Is it compare and contrast? Is it cause and effect? Well, if I'm reading Thermopylae first, it tells me about the battle. It tells me about what led up to the battle. It tells me about the battle. Then it tells me what happened after the battle. That's the sequence, y'all. So that tells it to me in sequence. Apologies for the marker death. For Leonidas, I'm reading Leonidas. It tells me about the lead up to the battle. It tells me about the battle, and it tells me what happened after the battle. So what's Leonidas going to be? Also sequence. And even though language got cut off, I also have to talk about how the language is between both texts. Oh, my goodness. So language is the final thing I'm going to focus on. Remember, y'all, it could be technical, where it's teaching me how to do something. It could be figurative, where it's trying to like paint this picture using language that is not exactly just trying to teach me information. Or it could be extremely informational, just trying to give me stuff, which means it's literal. So I'm reading Thermopylae. It's just telling me and explaining what happened at the Battle of Thermopylae. So what do you think? I don't know what you think of it. Literal. That's literal. So the language in Thermopylae is literal language, just giving me information. And I'm going to read Leonidas now. And would you look at that? It's giving me information. People, places, dates, battles. So that is also going to be literal. So now, when this is all put together, you put this all together in a response. Not a chart, not Venn diagrams. You put this together in a written response. So you would say, the authors of Thermopylae and Leonidas both focused on what topic? We know they're both focused on. The beheading of Leonidas. That's your first sentence. Your second sentence. While Thermopylae focuses on who gave the order, Xerxes, and what he ordered be done with the head, Leonidas tells about how his warriors found his body and how it was meant as a grave insult. 2 sentences in. The structure of both texts presents the info in a sequence, and both texts have third-person perspective. Additionally, both texts give us literal language, showing that the main differences are a few differences in content. So that's looking what? 3 to 4 sentence response? But still, everything that I just touched on, did I touch on the shared information? I did. Did I include evidence about content, structure, and language? I did. I have answered the prompt. This is the best way, y'all, and Fruitman breaks it down for you too. You guys have it now broken down for you again. This is the best way to make sure that you are doing everything the prompt is telling you, and you are accurately comparing and contrasting the 2 texts. So what we did today is just like that, except we're only focused on Achilles. The last time around, it was the beheading of Leonidas. Now it's going to be something involving Achilles. So you'll be putting these skills to work once you do today's exit ticket as well. So y'all are now going to dig into the reread.